Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering issue 17 of Superboy and the second story, The Man Who Shadowed Superboy. This is a story about a helpless PI who becomes the best quality assurance egg person or egg quality assurance person. He tests to make sure eggs are good before they're put into the egg crates. That's what I'm trying to say. In all of Smallville. And honestly, I don't even quite understand how that happened. So, it's a bit of a funny Superboy story, but not like overtly funny. Not like the attempts, say, in that Superman story about trying to make that old rich guy laugh. Why was that the first example I thought of? That was also not a particularly funny story, but I'm sure it made people in the 1940s laugh. This one sees, like I said, a helpless detective. His name is Luke Folsom. He gets his detective or PI license or education diploma from a correspondence school, which is also a scam. That's two scam schools in one issue of Superboy. We are really going back to the same well, huh? Luke has to leave his small town, which apparently is smaller than Smallville because he goes to Smallville because it's a bigger town. I do kind of like the ridiculousness of this joke that Smallville is bigger than whatever town he's from. What, do they only have like 5 museums compared to Smallville's unlimited museums? You see, that's a joke. I'm not going to explain a joke. That's not funny. Watch my other videos of me complaining about how many museums Smallville seems to have. But there's no reason for a detective in Smallville. There's no reason for a police force in Smallville. You have Superboy, who's basically solving all crimes and stopping all crimes or eventually capturing anybody who happened to commit a crime. So yeah, he's losing money. Now, the overall plot, which takes a little bit to get to, is that there was some sort of crime involving stealing radium from the hospital and criminals trying to look for it, and them hiring Luke to go investigate Clark. So he's actually shadowing Clark, not Superboy. But what's interesting about this is Clark gets away from him fairly easily, using egg crates, and he's sort of forgotten about through the last maybe third of the story. At least the climax, he's completely gone just for Superboy to deal with things. In fact, he's barely a nuisance to Superboy, even when he's following him. At times, it feels like the story has completely forgotten about him as early as the midpoint. Even though he is around, he's not really doing much. And seeing that he's the character that has the closest thing to a character arc, that character arc, working in an egg factory. And after he stops the crooks, he goes and looks in after Luke, and now Luke is working for the egg company he was at, the egg farm, and he's checking it, and they make a comment about how good he is at finding a bag egg. He can find them quicker than anybody else. Okay, when we left Luke, he was holding up some egg crates. There was no evidence of him finding bad eggs. Like, I don't understand. I get it's funny. It's just you need to put a little more work into building him becoming this egg quality assurance. It's just so random that it's broken me, but it's not an actual story, you know? I'm glad he got a happy ending. He found his purpose in life. It's kind of a sad purpose. You're really good at finding bad eggs. I mean, that might be better than my purpose currently. At least he gets paid for that. But I don't know what we're doing with this story. It does feel like it's setting up Clark to help him become a better detective, and then doesn't do that. In fact, in almost every single way. And I have to kind of applaud Superboy and Superman for this. Whatever the obvious story you expect that they're setting up, it always just doesn't do that. Not always, but most of the time it doesn't do that. And there's something inventive about that. Unfortunately, what they end up setting up and what they end up paying off don't really mesh. And it would be better if they managed to do that as well. They would have stronger stories if they pulled that off. Maybe just go for the obvious story more times than not. And maybe with the obvious story, we could have actually gotten to why he ends up being where he is at the end. But as it stands, man, it's just out there and not really well set up. So once again, an anticlimactic ending. Well, to the character arc, him defeating the guys with the trying to steal the radium makes sense at least. Though it ends up being completely unmemorable compared to the egg thing at the very end. Okay, that is it from Superboy issue 17 and the second story, The Man Who Shadowed Superboy. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday. Friday's Bat Friday, where I cover Batman story and other Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow. And seriously, how did Luke get that job? How did they figure this out? How did Luke figure this out? Okay, have a great day.